Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to First Unitarian Church's virtual Sunday service. I am Karen Anderson, and I minister to this congregation as we minister to each other. Our church welcomes everyone, no matter their age, race, beliefs, culture, ability, education, finances, who they love, or how they identify. We are people who take up the call of social justice, work for peace, and stand on the side of love in our communities and in our world. We are people of purpose here at UU New Bedford. And if these things resonate with you, we hope you find a spiritual home here. I am so glad to be back with our music director, Randy Fayen, and we're glad to have you back here to share this time of worship and of feeling of community with each other. I hope you all had a great summer and found some time for self-care and compassion. Let us take a breath together, looking forward to the new year, and light our chalice. I light our chalice today for coming together, for taking care of each other, for letting our voices be heard amid the chaos. May we face this year with the fire of commitment that has inspired generations of Unitarians to speak up against injustice everywhere, in our community and in our world. May this year be the year when such a fire becomes a conflagration of voters who show up in New Bedford in November to do their duty as citizens, of nonviolent protesters who keep faith that our country can change and that justice can include everyone, and of everyday people who refuse to let the vulnerable stand alone amid the chaos that we face with a pandemic that is still raging in our country. For all the fires we have started amid this time of renewal, let us stand together as one people facing the future. So may it be. Our opening words this morning are actually the words to our first hymn. Traditionally, every year I open our church year with hymn number 1, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door. It's a lovely hymn. It's a little sad, a little melancholy, the tune to it. But I think it would be nice to just hear the words this year, because it's sort of like a spell for keeping this place sacred. So let me read this to you. May nothing evil cross this door, and may ill fortune, oh crap, hold on, sorry people. I just made a mess of myself. May nothing evil cross this door, and may ill fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by. By faith made strong, the rafters will withstand the battering of the storm. This hearth, though all the world grow chill, will keep you warm. Peace shall walk softly through these rooms, touching our lips with holy wine, till every casual corner blooms into a shrine. With laughter, drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep hate out and hold love in. So may it be. It's nice as a prayer, isn't it? Now, we will read our covenant together. I'm going to post it for you here. We come together as a religious community, upholding freedom of conscience, right relationship, and the inherent worth of all people. We value our diversity and pledge to care for one another in the spirit of compassion, to speak and listen to each other with respect, and to promote justice and kindness in the world. And now, our hymn today, to keep it in the spirit of keeping things light, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Sing along at home if you know it. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Okay, well, now is the time in our service where we share with each other our joys, our sorrows, our concerns. If anyone has anything to share, please don't hesitate to email me, kandersonUUNB at gmail, uunewbedford@gmail.com. First candle I'd like to light today is a candle of love and concern for Kermit Dewey, who was in hospital last time I checked, but was doing all right. So we're going to light a candle for him. And of course for Val and the rest of his family who are worried. Candle of love, sorrow, and remembrance for our dear friend Trudy Clark Santos, who managed our thrift shop. She passed away in July, and it hit everybody here pretty hard. So we send our love and prayers to her family and friends in their time of grief. Candle of concern for my stepdad, Charlie, who hasn't been well and could use all the prayers he can get. A candle of concern and love for our friends in Oregon and California who are struggling with wildfires right now. It's hard to watch, and we pray for their safety. And I light two final candles, as is the practice here in our church, one for all of those who have yet to find a safe place to share their joys and their sorrows, and one for those who have kept some of their joys and sorrows in their hearts today. First reading this morning. It's used by permission, called Meeting the World by Mark Nepo. There is a wind that keeps blowing since the beginning of time, and in every language ever spoken, it continues to whisper. You must meet the outer world with your inner world, or existence will crush you. If inner does not meet outer, our lives will collapse and vanish. Though we often think that hiding our inwardness will somehow protect or save us, it is quite the opposite. The heart is very much like a miraculous balloon. Its lightness comes from staying full. Meeting the days with our heart prevents collapse. This is why 90-year-old widows remain committed to tending small flowers in the spring. Why 10-year-olds with very little to eat care for stray kittens, holding them to their skinny chests. Why painters go blind painting. Why composers go deaf to write great symphonies. This is why when we think we can't possibly try again, we let out a sigh that goes back through the centuries. And then despite all our experience, we inhale and try again. Let us enter now into the spirit of prayer and meditation. This is also used by permission. It's called Prayer for a Pandemic by Cameron Wiggins Bellum. May those who are merely inconvenienced remember those whose lives are at stake. May those who have no risk factors remember the most vulnerable. May those who have the luxury of working from home remember those who must choose between preserving their health or making their rent. May those who have the flexibility to care for their children when the schools close remember those who have no options. May those who have had to cancel their trips remember those who have no safe place to go. May those who are losing our margin money in the tumult of the economic market remember those who have no margin at all. May those who are settling in for a quarantine at home remember those who have no home. As fear grips our country, let us choose love. During this time when we cannot physically wrap our arms around each other, let us yet find ways to be the loving embrace of God for our neighbors. Amen, and so may it be. second reading this morning is by the Reverend David Miller. Excuse me for stating the obvious. This pandemic has no false borders between countries. It sees no imaginary constructs of race. It does not discriminate between the powerful, those who have made fortunes, or who struggle to put food on their table. It will not cede to our illusion of control. It treats us as if we are all one human entity, one fallible, fragile, and irrepressible family, which if we could ever recognize, like this virus does, maybe someday we could become. Wouldn't that be nice, church? Now is the time in our service where we ask for your kind donations toward the good works of this church. You can keep sending your donations into 71 8th Street, New Bedford, Mass. 02740, and we now do have a donation button on our webpage, which is uunewbedford.org. And it's all the way down at the bottom right now, so you might have to go look for it, but it is there. And as always, we thank you so much for all the kind donations you give toward the good works here. Well, here we are, my friends, back from our summer break. And I hope you're all healthy and have had the chance to get out and safely enjoy yourselves a little bit during the warm weather. We were hoping that this whole COVID-19 thing would be under control enough in the fall for visitors and members to return to our sanctuary. But after long discussions and taking everything into consideration, for a number of reasons, we have decided to remain closed for Sunday services right now. We'll see where we are in December before Christmas and take it from there. For now, we will have a new monthly format based more on what we were doing before. So I'll be here twice a month. Yasmin will be doing an intergenerational service for kids once a month, and we'll have one Sunday with a speaker or speakers from the community and a congregational discussion afterward. So look for Zoom coffee hours and Soul Matters discussions. And if you play an instrument and would like to send a video for us to use in services when Randy's off or just to have for fun, we'd love to have you participate. These are difficult days, and we're going to be doing things differently for a while. But we feel that the health and safety of everyone in this congregation means more to us than any other consideration right now. We're just glad that you're here with us today, and we're glad to still be able to be with you even if it isn't in person. Some other religious groups and denominations are holding in-person services now, I know. So you might ask or wonder why we are not. And the short answer, I suppose, is that in many other religions there are rituals and sacraments that are crucial parts of their beliefs, like receiving communion. We Unitarians are not all that big on sacraments, except those we make for ourselves. And we embrace ritual when it suits us or when we're moved to do so. But we do have a few rituals in our liturgical year that we celebrate. And this first Sunday of the new church year is one of them. This is our Ingathering. It's a time when we welcome each other back to this church and get excited about the new year ahead. Every other year in memory, this is when you would get to see the faces you might not have seen in a while, exchange hugs and handshakes, and marvel at how the kids seem to have grown an inch or 3 over the summer. And the obligatory potluck, of course. It's meant to be a time of joy in each other's company, in warm community, and in fellowship. And sure, we can still share those things together and come up with new and interesting ways to do services, and hopefully experience some spiritual satisfaction. But nothing beats doing services live. Oh, I just lost my place. Nothing beats it. Okay. We are social creatures. We have spent the last few years, ironically, wringing our hands about how social media keeps us indoors and away from others. And now here we are, depending on these devices to keep us sane, because we still have to avoid being together in person. But I think it's made us appreciate a little bit how precious real human-to-human interaction and contact is. We are social creatures. And I think we are realizing that social media isn't enough for humans to be truly happy, as much as we're glad to have it to lean on these days. We need each other close, and it starts to hurt our hearts and minds and spirits after a while when we can't be casually together. I'm a hugger and a handshaker. I can't help it. It's my nature to make physical connections, and it's weird not being able to do that most of the time right now. When you recognize someone behind their mask that you'd love to give love to, we have to find other ways to do that right now. But I have faith in how many ways we can figure out to love each other, church. I know this has been a really hard 6 months for everyone, and some much more than others. One day in early March, we were rolling along as usual, and then the carpet was pulled out from under us all. The world changed. Our lives changed, seemingly overnight. Most of us have never experienced anything like this in our lifetime. It's scary and it's unsettling all by itself. There's enough anxiety right there. But no, 2020 has been a figurative turducken of crazy, or maybe Russian dolls of fear is a better example. We've had the kind of crazy year that is beyond the pale for most of us to handle. And trying to keep up on everything in the news is a certain path to panic attacks. The least of the things that made my heart race this year were murder hornets, fire tornadoes, and apparently that there are sharks with teeth on their eyeballs. I don't want to leave my house now. I have nightmares. But all kidding aside, though I was not kidding about any of that, all those things are horribly real, this year isn't even over. We are struggling to come to terms with systemic racism in our country and change things on a local level and on a national level, and do it peacefully. The time is long, long overdue, and the long arc of justice is in view. We have to take into account the kind of country we want to be, the kind of people we want to be for the future. We're seeing the awful effects of climate change as wildfires rage through California and Oregon and Colorado. We're watching the ugly underbelly of white nationalism get recognition, and bonkers conspiracy theories getting into office. All the while, people are getting sick and dying by the thousands every day from this deadly virus. And now the election is staring us in the face, and that's enough for a standing heart attack. These are trying times, anxious times, confusing times. There's no way we can't acknowledge the challenges that we face as a country and as a planet. As we have learned the hard way, ignoring issues does not make them go away. It usually makes them worse. It's tough to have an ingathering apart when we need each other more than ever. There's so much division in our country, so much chaos. We have learned that we are all the same as far as COVID-19 goes, even if it does hit some harder than others. This virus doesn't discriminate by race or gender, doesn't care what religion you believe in, doesn't care where you live. It knows no borders. It isn't nepotistic. You can't get out of it because your dad is the mayor. You can't buy your way out of it. You can't control it, and you can't ignore it away. We're fighters, though, more creative than we give ourselves credit for. And, well, church, I have some hope set aside. As much as I feel the anxiety of these times with you, I have some hope set aside. So let us take a lesson from this common experience. It has allowed us to realize in a very tangible way the interconnected web of which we are all a part. Our one human entity, one fallible, fragile, and irrepressible family. In my fantasies, it was always a starship from another planet that would make us realize how small we are, how vulnerable we are if we don't stick together and watch out for each other. And that we are part of something so much bigger, like it or not, like each other or not. But this tiny, invisible alien has invaded our world instead. And just the same, we can only fight it together. I wrote most of this sermon on Friday, which was September 11th, thinking about how for a moment in time, the people of our country were able to unite truly and come together in our grief, in our anger, at that awful attack on our country and the death of over 3,000 people. I will never forget that day where I was, or the emotions that went through me as I watched the second plane crash. And here we are, nearly 20 years later, looking at almost 200,000 people dead from this pandemic in our country alone. And I ask myself, how do we not remember how we so desperately need each other to get through the worst of times? How can we forget when we said we'd never forget that when our people die by the thousands, we don't fight with each other, we help each other out of the darkness? What has happened to our sense of who we are as human beings in this country? I don't know the answer to that. All I can tell you is that I still have hope in my pocket. Because we live where we live and we see the good people. I have to remind myself that the news feeds are not driven by stories that make you feel good. But it doesn't mean that those stories aren't out there. I see them every day. Even when we're apart, we do stick together. It's how we're made. That's where the hope in my pocket comes from all the effort I see from those who are underpaid, overworked, and unappreciated, yet do their job because it's the right thing to do and it needs to be done. From all the small things, like checking on your elderly neighbors or calling a friend to say hello, to the big things like watching your sister's kids when they have to go back to work. Amid all the divisiveness, I still believe that stories like these are much more what we are about in reality. Ingathering. It's a good word, like a soft blanket to curl up in. So let this day be a day to hold close those you can hold close. Reach out to those who might need it. And of course, celebrate our church community's new year. Stay strong and hold fast, church. May we remain people of purpose. May nothing evil cross this door. May we look forward with as much tenacity as compassion. And may we all remember that none of us are alone. We stick together. So may it be. Our closing words. I will extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this chalice with the hope that you will carry the flame of love and compassion into the world. May you bring light and life wherever you go, and may you be safe on your path. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week. Go in peace. Hold fast, church.